Hello, my name is Matthew Pfeiffer with mattpfeiffercoaching.com. Welcome to my YouTube channel. On this channel, I create videos and content about toxic, narcissistically abusive relationships. If you have a question that you'd like for me to answer, make sure you send it to justaskmatt@mattpfeiffercoaching.com. Again, that is justaskmatt@mattpfeiffercoaching.com. Just make sure you keep that email 2 to 3 paragraphs max. And you're also very direct and to the point of what your question actually is. If it's too long, if it's too lengthy, unfortunately, I will not be able to get to it. If you need a little bit more direct help, you can always become a member on my YouTube channel. You can check out my membership program. I have several different levels. Some of them offer discounts on courses. Some of them offer actual courses that you can join and go through some trainings. And some of them actually offer discounts on one-on-one sessions with me. So make sure you check that out when you get a chance. So with all that being said, let's get into today's email. So today's email comes from a person who is struggling. It doesn't sound like it's a narcissistically abusive relationship or anything like that, but they're a little bit early on in a potentially healthy relationship, actually, at least from what I'm gathering in an email. And but what's happening is that now this person feels like that their partner is letting their foot off the gas, and they are not being pursued as much anymore. And this person is starting to get a little bit more concerned about the lack of effort that they're getting from their partner. So with all that being said, let's get into today's email. Let's see if we can help this person out, and let's see if we can help out others who might be having similar struggles. So this email reads, "Hey Matt, what should I do if I feel a certain way about my partner not pursuing me as much and doing the things that he used to do prior to making it an official relationship?" So one of the things I want to be very clear about, this is very common. This is actually not only common, but this actually happens in healthy relationships too, right? So I'm going to get into that a little bit further here in a second. But a lot of times when people have unrealistic expectations of what a relationship actually is, and I'm not getting on the person who wrote this, I'm going to explain and be a little bit more clear here in a second, especially if this person came out of a toxic relationship previous. And a lot of times we expect for a relationship to stay at its peak, right, in the beginning during the honeymoon phase, right? And so I'm going to talk about the phases of a healthy relationship. People, include myself, talk a lot about the phases and the cycles of a toxic relationship. We don't talk enough about the phases of a healthy relationship, right, and how it starts to mature a little bit more over time, right? So, and then how do we have conversations about how our needs aren't being met? So we'll talk about that here in a second. So this email continues, especially if it's still within the first year. I almost feel like my man wants me to be in my masculine energy and pursue him. So one of the things I'm going to tell you guys straight up, I'm not someone who co-signs off this on this masculine versus feminine energy. I think that people take it far too far overboard. Everyone, both men and women, have both masculine and feminine energy and nature to them. We all need levels of both, right? And how we get through someone else being in their masculine and someone else being in their feminine, and we need is through proper communication skills, right? That's what needs to happen. So I'm going to get into, let's finish out this email, then we'll get into that a little bit later. So he's not initiating the dates, initiating contact. He doesn't call all the time, and he's falling back a bit. So this is actually normal, right? This is actually, I don't know the rest of the dynamic of your relationship, right? But what we have to understand is that all the relationships, right? Let's throw out, just for today, just for this video, let's throw out toxic narcissistic relationships. Let's just talk about relationships, period, healthy relationships. They all, right? We have the honeymoon phase, which can last between 6 to 12 months, right? And in the honeymoon phase, just like any other relationship, even in unhealthy relationships, that you're at its peak and you feel like this person knows you and that sort of thing. But what happens is that relationships over time have to start to mature, so that intensity that you feel in the beginning, right? Doesn't mean that you're a bad person. Does that mean that they're falling out of love with you? Does that mean that they're losing interest? No. It just means that the relationship is starting to mature. This is a good thing. This is normal. This is healthy, right? So that peak and that intensity that you feel in the beginning starts to even out, right? And people start to, and so you start to transition from that honeymoon phase, right, into what's called the doubting phase of the relationship. The doubting phase of the relationship can last between another 12 to 24 months. This is the reason why I tell people to down, slow down when it comes to your relationships, because you're still genuinely getting to know this person, right? Same thing here. You're still getting to know this person. Within the first year. Am I saying that this person is a bad person, anything like that? No. It takes time. People are very layered, right? And a lot of times people don't even know certain elements about themselves, and we also don't know if this is a good fit, right? So the relationship starts to mature. You start to enter into the doubting phase of the relationship. And as you start to enter into the doubting phase of the relationship, you start to wonder, is this going to be a good fit? Can this work out? Do they want the same things out of life that I do? And you're going to wonder if this relationship can actually work. So how we get through this isn't trying to expect for this person to be who they were in the beginning, right? Because that's not possible. It was too intense, right, for both of you. And I have a feeling that if you were to write me, there's probably some things that probably has dropped off for you as well. Nobody, nobody on this planet can maintain the intensity of the beginning of the relationship that happens in the honeymoon phase. Nobody can. It's too intense. And I can make a strong argument that it would actually be unhealthy, right? So the relationship starts to mature, right? Things start to balance out. And what has to happen in situations like this, where you're starting to see that certain needs aren't being met, right? Because now people are starting to focus a little bit more and starting to realize where their priorities need to go, that sometimes they need to put work in front of their relationship. Sometimes they need to put the relationship in front of work, and they try to balance things out and trying to find where their boundaries lie. How are we going to fit our previous kids and exes and all of the dynamics that go into a relationship? How are we going to fit it all together? Right. So when we start to see that things are starting to lack within our partner, it doesn't mean that the relationship's in trouble, but we need to open up and we need to have proper communication. Keyword, proper communication, right? Because what happens a lot of times, especially if one of you has more of an anxious attachment style and the other one has more of an avoidant attachment style, you can enter into what's called protest behavior, where you won't ever fucking call me anymore. I don't care who you are. If you approach someone like that, they are immediately going to get defensive, which is the reason why you hear me saying proper communication, right? Two things I tell people: don't say always, and don't say never. You don't ever call me anymore, right? What happens? I called you just the other day. They get defensive, and they're going to point out each and every time that they did exactly what you just accused them of not doing. If you say always and never. So we pull back from those things and we replace those words with words like seems like and feels like, right? It seems like things have dropped off a bit, right? I feel like you don't pursue me as much as you used to. It would mean a lot to me if you initiated more dates, right? And what happens is that now you put that person, you put your partner, you put your man into a position of power, right? You put them in a position of, and when I mean power, I don't mean like over you or anything like that, but in a position where they can talk about the solution, right? Because most people who are in relationships and communication, you hear people, communication is key, right? But it's also proper communication, how you talk to people and the tone and things that nature, right? Because when you start to use certain words that cause people to get defensive, they have no choice but to defend. And now, guess what? Now we're in a fight, right? Instead of trying to find common solution and common ground, right? We're in a fight, and both people start to dig their heels in. And instead of looking at this person like a partner, we're looking at that person that's attacking us like their opposition. And when you win the argument against your partner, you really actually lost, right? Because the reality of it is that if this really is a partner, that we're supposed to be in this together and working together towards our common goal and towards common interest and finding compromise, then we should both be looking for opportunities to find where we can meet somewhere in the middle. And the only way for us to do that is for us to communicate in a way that we're both looking for a common solution, right? But when we position ourselves that you're all wrong and I'm 100% right, you have failed right from the beginning, right? So proper communication. Let's get back into the phases of the relationship for a second. So we have the honeymoon phase that you were talking about in the beginning, right? So that begins to even out, that begins to mature a little bit, kind of like wine, right? Then we go into the doubting phase where you're like, man, I don't know if this is going to work or things like that. But if you can begin to structure good, healthy communication, good, healthy boundaries through that process, through this stage of the relationship, right? And you get through that part, then you get to the part that everyone is actually looking for, the stability phase, where we're finishing each other's sentences, where you feel like this person is your soulmate, where communication and disagreements just come. You're not afraid of having conflict with this person. You're not afraid of having disagreements with this person, because guess what? During the doubting phase, you put all the structure together. You put a system in place for you guys to have healthy communication, to work through and resolve issues, and to find a common goal, common solutions, those sorts of things, right? So we're starting to see that, right? We're starting different disagreements, different conflicts are starting to arise. So it's important that the two of you guys begin to look at ways to structure and define systems and define levels of communication to get through not the good times. That part's easy. Anybody can initiate dates. That part's easy. The real issue here is that the two of you don't know how to resolve conflict. You don't know how to resolve disagreements. And if we don't learn now how to resolve disagreements, other disagreements are going to come up. And if we don't take the lessons, if we don't take the wisdom that we can possibly learn from this type of situation, it has the potential of becoming problematic later on down the road, right? So this has the potential of being a good learning lesson for you. So thank you very much for writing in. Anyone else who would like to write in, make sure you send your questions to justaskmatt@mattpfeiffercoaching.com. Again, that is justaskmatt@mattpfeiffercoaching.com. Just make sure you keep that email 2 to 3 paragraphs max. And you're also very direct and to the point of what your question actually is. If it's too long, if it's too lengthy, if I don't understand what you're asking, unfortunately, I will not be able to get to it. So with all that being said, thank you guys very much. And I will see you guys in the next video. You guys have a good one.